So Vaya, I was transparent with Nick, so I should be with you. I don't have my green screen up today. So for those who are intrigued, this is what my office looks like. But I found that it does a pretty good job with no green screen. That's no green screen at all.
Which is wonderful.
So I'll stick with that.
I think I told you the very first tech meeting that I attended.
Yeah.
I was able to change all of my backgrounds, virtual backgrounds, and I've never been able to do it since.
Huh. Oh.
Now it says that my computer isn't capable. And when I use a green screen, because I did hang one up in a bedroom, it pixelates terrible.
Oh, it does?
Yes, really bad. So
so one question is, tell me about your computer.
Well, I've tried it on 2 different ones. Hey,
okay.
Tim.
Hey, Tim. You're muted, Tim.
I've tried it. The one that I'm using right now, I know is very slow. It's a Lenovo IdeaPad 110.
So like 5 years old?
Probably.
Yeah. Okay, so that's
right. But the other one that I tried it on is a Dell computer, and it is probably only maybe a year old.
Okay, so it could still be that the processor is just not strong enough, and I know that they kept upping their standard of what it took to do it without a green screen. So
right. But even with the green screen, I can't get it to not pixelate.
Yeah, I've not seen that happen, so I can just call you unlucky.
Yeah.
So that's a technical term.
Right.
How you doing, Tim?
I am doing very well. How are you?
Good. Can you hear me okay? Because I've got my air conditioning running because it's so hot. And so I put on my little microphone to think it would isolate that sound.
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Okay,
I don't hear the AC at all.
Good.
Right. I don't either.
Good. Hey, Fred. There you go.
Hi, Fred.
Hey, Fred. You know, you're facing about 90 degrees away from your camera. Did you know that?
I know. I have an external camera over on the side. Now I'm looking at you.
Yeah, that's right.
I have to readjust.
That's okay. Just
still working on the setup here. I like showing the window.
Yeah. Somehow I think that's not virtual. I think that's real.
Hey, that is a willow tree.
Yeah.
Hey, that microphone you have, is it like one of the Bluetooth ones?
No, this is a Countryman. So it's really a performance microphone. It's over the ear. I won't be able to show it to you. Hold on one sec. Turn off the green screen here and then it won't erase it. One sec. Do you see it there on my shoulder? Oh.
Okay, yeah.
And you know, I was doing podcasts and video recording, so I needed a really good microphone.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little, usually you see them with a wireless adapter to them so that they're what you would wear on stage and move around with. Mine is wired because I didn't need to spend the extra money on the wireless, but even so, it's close to $300. So it was a time when I was doing more performances, and it made sense at that point for me to have that.
Are there, one of the things I'm looking for is, I want to get headphones with like a boom mic, but I don't want necessarily the kind that just come over top of my head. I want some, there's some that look around that are wrap around the back. And I saw some that they're decent enough quality, like to get me through whatever this is, but they're not like the great quality. And if further down the line, I want to move from just performing to also podcasting or something. They're not at that quality.
Right.
So I've been playing around with that set up, and then also the idea, like if I do a podcast, and maybe that's something we can talk about today.
Sure,
so
sure.
If I do a podcast, and someone else calls in, what kind of setup do I need to have the best sort of signal from whoever else is calling in?
So I'd love let's put a pin in that one. We'll definitely get to that one. Who else has a topic for today? And let's see what we can cover. Yeah, Via?
Kind of along the same lines as far as the microphone, the external microphone.
Okay.
I don't have a high quality one, but I tried several different microphones on that Dell computer that I was talking about earlier. And I was practicing for this festival that I did last week. And it didn't seem to matter which microphone I used. They all sounded exactly the same. They all sounded tinny. And I know that could be the environment.
Could be the environment, could be the speakers you're listening with. So microphones are definitely a topic.
Okay, yeah.
Tim, what's on your radar for today?
Microphones would definitely be helpful. And I have really a basic one and then something a wee bit more complicated. I have a Toshiba something another laptop with Windows 7, and I thought I might take this opportunity for a major upgrade, and wondered what you might recommend just for overall use, but particularly with this kind of format in mind. Okay. And then I would like to be able to film some stuff out and about in historic Charleston, and I wondered if you had any knowledge about something I could wear so that when I look at something, people see what I see, kind of thing. Yep. If you have any knowledge about that, that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah. Okay. Rona, you're next. Just to get topics out. What's your topic for today, Rona? And then Fred.
Microphone. I want to be able to film myself telling a story, but not right up against the computer, so standing back from it.
Okay.
Full size, but I've got some sort of microphone.
Yep. Okay. Fred, how about you?
Yeah, I have some feedback about the microphone question that I gave at the virtual storytelling group as well, with my Bluetooth standalone mic.
Yep.
So I can show that and talk about
it. Please, yeah.
And my question is about video editing on the Mac. So I am just about to be launching into several different video editing projects, and there's a few things that I think I could do just with Zoom in terms of using multiple cameras and multiple people and then capturing that whole thing. But I still really need to edit, and I have a bunch of other things I want to edit, and I just don't know where to go.
Okay.
What to do, how much to spend, what the choices are. So that's my question.
I'll have some limited advice for you there. I'm more familiar with the PC, but we can definitely talk. And Valentina, welcome. We're just taking topics at the moment. So what are your topics for today? You're muted. There you go.
There are so many things I would just like to listen in, and it's just I missed last week's because I just couldn't get connected. But I finally figured out that the internet can be better if you connect yourself with a cable.
Absolutely.
So that was my big success today. So I just like to.
Well, and if you think of something that was going through, please ask. But it sounds like the one topic that has the most kind of interest right now is microphones. So let's start there.
Thank you.
The first thing, as with any of this technology stuff, the first thing to always ask yourself is, what am I trying to do? Because the answers will be different depending upon what your objective is. If you're trying to have, and it sounds like most of you are interested in being able to use a microphone that is both better than whatever's coming in your laptop and doesn't require you to be right on top of the screen to do it. So we'll start with that. And then there's some other refinements to that, but just to start there. there are the first thing you want to think about is, and I'm going to assume for a moment, we'll start with the wired solutions. Because if you move to a wireless solution, you're going to be spending a lot more money. Dollar for dollar, the quality will go down because there's much more involved in making it wireless. So unless you have a compelling need to be wireless, say find a way to stay wired, that can include, by the way, as I've done, very long cables that you can move around and do everything you need to do. It's just not suited for a stage. Okay, so that would be the one difference. And we're not really talking about stage here anyway. The most common interface into a computer, and it's true for both Macs and PCs, is the USB port. And that's the cable you're all familiar with. There's different generations of it, but they all physically look the same. And so your simplest and easiest solution is to find a USB microphone, all right? One that will attach to your computer by way of a USB cord. And the main question you want to ask is, does it have this, and the term is phantom power. There's a little bit of power that comes through the USB port and that can power some smaller, less demanding devices. And some microphones fall in that category, but others need more power than that little bit of energy that the USB port has. And if that's the case, you'll need to buy a little amplifier to sit between you and the computer to give it that power. Okay, so first question is, can you you want to be able to hook your microphone into the computer. And we're going to talk a little bit differently about a camera, or a truly remote camera. But if you're talking about a podcast or something like that, then you want something that will connect directly through a USB, either through an amplifier or directly into your computer. And they'll both be pretty much the same. I'm going to take my microphone off for a moment and grab two to show you. So give me just a second. And I'll bring this over to you.
Gosh, what is that?
So hold on. Okay, and it'd be an interesting experiment if anybody just heard the difference. I just shifted from my headphone microphone to my webcam microphone. So there you go. There's a first experience. And that's just going to give me a little more mobility. Fred has a Yeti Snowball, right? Is that right, Fred?
It is the, it's the big Snowball.
Okay.
They make a handheld. This one has a very heavy base, and it has this spring mounted to keep from vibration going into the microphone itself. And it also has a spit screen to stop you from popping S's.
Right.
It is not powered except by the USB cable. Yep. And it seems to work really well. And I use it in the virtual storytelling group where the mic is sitting. I'm going to put it right now back where I have it, which is behind my laptop. sitting up on a stool, and I'm now able to be quite a ways away from it, and it still sounds pretty good to me. I don't know if you all could tell any difference in the sound there.
Actually, we can, but it doesn't sound bad, but you definitely sound distant.
Right.
But it's perfectly adequate. And what Fred has lovingly called the spit screen is formally called the pop screen.
Yeah.
But it accomplishes both. It's spit and pops. So I have two USB microphones. They're both made by Audio-Technica, which is a great company. You can get microphones at a wide range of prices through them. This one is a handheld one that you can put into a stand. It's the ATR 2100. It's a USB connection, but I can also, if I wanted to put a three pin into it, I can do that as well. So I've got both options. And this is what's called omnidirectional. All right. So much like Fred's, you don't have to point it at you in order to get a good sound, which can be an advantage if you're trying to record from a distance. Okay. And this one I used for a while, and honestly, it wasn't terribly expensive, and I don't use it very much anymore. Because what I next got into was podcasting. I did a fair amount of podcasting, and then I stepped up for that. And this is also an Audio-Technica. It's a 2020, and this is directional, right? So this is something that I speak into, and it's designed for that in particular. I also got what's called a shock mount, which is a variation of what Fred has there. And I can put the microphone in there. And you know, if you're moving around, if you could put your elbow on the desk and this is sitting on the desk, it'll make a difference. And they're not terribly expensive. To make that truly effective for podcasting, I spend a little extra money. And I'll try and tilt this for you so you can see it. Oh, yeah. And this is a sound screen. All right. And it's all foam. There's the pop screen that attaches to it. And my shock mount goes here. And when I stand in front of this and speak, here. When I stand in front of it and speak, all of the sound I make is absorbed. It sounds like I'm in the studio. I don't have to make a big deal for the room. Now, I can't use this if I'm talking to you. Right? Unlike Fred's, I can't hide. That hides my face, especially since I'm using the directional mic. So again, what's your purpose, right? Your purpose is to make a really high quality audio recording for a podcast. You want a directional mic. You definitely want a pop screen because you're going to be close enough to it that your what do they call them? Your explosives, that's what they're called. Right. Will pop into it and be distracting. And the other thing you'll want to go with it too, even if you're not doing a high quality podcast, but to answer the question about taking calls, is you want to have a set of headphones or something that will allow you to not let the sound of your caller be heard. Okay, so I've got some in-ear a headset for that. Yeah, that would work. A headset will work just as well. But you don't want it coming through the speakers of your computer because that'll get really nasty. Yeah. There was a time, and this is one of the things that Zoom stopped doing that I'm really sorry they did. You used to have the option of breaking every participant into a separate audio channel. And that was wonderful for podcasting because I would interview people and I'd have one channel for them and one channel for me, and editing of that was a breeze. Not possible anymore.
Can you not do that through the breakout rooms, Jim?
No, it's not a breakout room function. It's when the audio is recorded, is it everybody on the single audio track who's present, or does each individual participant have their own audio track? It used to be that you had that option. They've removed that option. I've not been able to find it. So that's unfortunate for podcasting. However, you can still, if you're going to do podcasting, we should probably talk at more length about that. You have to learn how to pause when your subject is speaking. Socially, we tend to encourage people by speaking, and you have to learn a different way of interviewing, being silent when the other person is speaking, not encouraging them and speaking on.
Yes. So a question that I have is, because what's most likely going to happen is right now, I'm just focused on, hey, I want a better quality sound for performing, for either hosting or whatever else. And then at some point in the future, whether it's a few months or a few years, kind of move into the podcasting thing. So what I wonder is there one mic that I can buy that will last that transition? Or do I just need to know that, hey, I can buy one mic now and I'm just going to need a different type of mic, whether it's more expensive or different type later as I move into that?
There is one other option, and that is, let me see if I can find it here. You can get a lavalier mic that clips to your collar, and you can, we usually think of them as being a wireless thing, but they're not. The mic is a mic. So you can get a wired lavalier mic with a very long cord, and that will give you, again, it's for your voice, it'll do a good job. It won't do a good job for the ambient audio around you. So again, you have to think about what are you going to be recording for. So if you're looking for ambient sound, not just you, then you're probably looking at, and as opposed to the performance microphone where you're really only interested in your sound, you're probably looking at two mics. You're probably looking at one mic. You don't have to break the bank to get it. That'll do a good job on you. And then when you're trying to do something where there's sound around that you're trying to capture, probably going to move to another mic. Okay. There's other considerations when it comes to editing with video. So if all you're doing is doing like a Zoom meeting where you're not, the editing you're doing is simply to say, is this piece I want to cut out, but I'm not doing anything fancy within any segment. I'm just saying, here's the pieces I want. Then that's not a big challenge. If you're doing a video production though, where you're talking and you're showing things, you now have to start to wonder about, am I syncing my lips to what's being said? And I'll tell you, that gets tricky, okay? So my strategy has been, there may be things where I'm recording myself, but I'm not ever going to do anything fancy with those clips. I might break away and show something, but I'm never going to take a video recording of me speaking and try and marry it to an audio that I didn't produce at exactly the same time with exactly the same equipment. Too hard. There's plenty of people who can do that, but just that's way beyond anything that I think has value to us as storytellers, frankly. So things, and again, I don't know a lot. I know the Go Camera brand. I know it's very good. I know that this is the camera, all the extreme sports folks wear and as they careen off of mountains. I know they work very well, but honestly, I've not had any personal experience with them. So that I do have a handheld video recorder that when I was originally telling stories for video, I would set it up on a tripod in front of a blank wall and do that sort of thing. And had a very long wired cord to a lavalier microphone. But again, that was, I've never gone out to try and video as I'm moving around.
I know that I purposely got one of the Motorola Z4. And that was because it has those modal mods that go along with it, and so one of them is the 360 camera. You know, and again, it may not be at the same quality of like a GoPro, but it's decent enough that if I want to be able to see 360 around, or maybe just see some other stuff while I'm talking, I mean, it worked pretty well, and I already had it.
And that's great. And honestly, that's not been my interest, so I really don't know much in that department. Oh, one last thing to show you, and then we'll see where I've missed and where I need to go back. So I talked about the sub amplifier, right? The amplifier. So this is something called a Focusrite. It's kind of the industry standard. It's Focusrite is the brand name. This is called a Solo, Scarlett Solo. And what this lets me do is it has two inputs. One is my microphone that I was using before. I could have I've never used it, but I could have a second microphone here, like a musical instrument or something like that. And this is my monitor, my output. And I can adjust the volumes on all of them. And it's connected in the back by USB to my computer. Okay, so in this case, I do have a fancier connector for my microphone because it's a higher end microphone, and I can plug that straight into here. So that's useful. These things only matter when you're starting to get into more serious recording, you know. So if you can find, as Fred has, perfectly good USB microphone that doesn't need another amplifier to get into it. But just so you know, you're not talking about a lot of real estate. I think this was about $100. It's not a terrible thing to acquire, but you can get away without it without any difficulty, just so you know what it looks like.
Yeah, I know when I was talking with a friend, so a few friends I know who've done podcasting, and I know like their setup is essentially where they've got whatever mic thing, and then it goes into, I'll call it a magical box because I don't know what else to call it. But it goes there, and then from there, it goes into their computer where they have whatever software, but then that way, you know, when a person, there's like a lot in the background or something like that, they can make some changes for that.
It's a mixer, yeah. Yeah, it's a mixer, and they're useful if you know you're going to be doing a lot with somebody else, right? And there's going to be two sources. There's a lot of little inexpensive and useful equipment you can get that'll help you just kind of manage the volumes. You can also do that afterwards in audio editing, though. So, you know, again, you want to think about where do you want to be making those changes. But yeah, that's certainly something worth considering. Most of them come with fade ins and fade outs and sound effects. Again, you can do that as it's going into the computer, or you can do it once it's there with a good audio editor. So it's 6 of one, half dozen of another.
I have a question.
Please.
I own a very good a wireless headset.
Yeah.
If I got this little mixer, then I could use that.
Or the thing I showed you, the audio. This would probably work as well.
What is that?
This is the Focusrite. Oop, I plugged it back in, so it has less. The Focusrite, and that I'll bet if you have if you have a wireless mic, you probably have one of these 3-pin connectors to it. So you'd want that to be able to get it into your computer. You need something to adapt that cable to get it into your computer, and it probably has to be an amplifier. Now,
and deal with my wire microphone then.
Yeah. Now, let me make a specific recommendation about companies, and there's two that I give equal attention to. One is called Sweetwater, and the other is called B&H. I have had excellent experience with both of them. They could be sisters. They are a place where professional musicians and photographers go to get their equipment. But they are fine about coming in and say, look, I got $100 to spend, and this is what I need. And they'll put you to a consultant. And the consultant will walk you through all the things, and you can tell them what you've got and what your intentions are, and they'll help you pick a good thing. And I use Sweetwater a little more often just because they're open an extra day a week. But but I'll tell you the best story of that. So that fancy, the fancy microphone. Let me show you what this is. So that's the microphone. That's the connector, and there's a cable between them. Okay. You can buy them in all sorts of combinations of those three things. Okay. This is what's expensive, the microphone. Well, you can see I can pull it out of my adapter, right? And I can, if I'm not using it at the moment, I can walk around the house, come back and plug back in. So I got a phone call. I unplugged this from the box. I stuck it in my pocket. This was still on my ear. And I went running out of the door, and it caught on the door handle. And it ripped this piece, the cable out from this piece. Now, I'll tell you, there's no way you or I or most people could repair that, right? It's frayed, it's bad. And I was a not happy camper. And so I called them. I said, what do I need to do? Or I looked on their website and I said, what do I need to do? And they said, well, here's what you buy for this end and this end. This is the part number, but be sure you've got it right, because if you get it wrong, we have to special order these. You'll have to eat the cost. I said, okay. I looked at it. Everything looked fine. I ordered it, and it was the wrong piece. It had 3 holes, but the holes were closer together. And so I called them up. And I said, look, it's my fault. I made the mistake. Can I get a replacement? They said, absolutely. I said, how much is the charge? I said, no, it was an honest mistake. No, and in fact, this was a cheaper connector than the other one, so they gave me a refund. Wow. And they didn't charge me for any shipping. So Sweetwater gets my vote. So I'm dedicated to repeating that story. So let me take questions, and what didn't I get to? Bye.
Okay, so this is because I'm just completely illiterate in this whole area. If I got the microphone that you were suggesting, and I got that little amplifier that you were suggesting, is it now using the speaker from my computer? Because you didn't say anything about plugging into a speaker. So
right.
Like when I go to a school and I have my cordless headset and I plug into their system, whether I'm actually plugging into their speaker system or into a mixer or an amp or whatever, it's magic. Like Nick was saying to me, it's magic. I plug it in and then it works.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, so, that's basically whenever you're recording, so think of it as plumbing. The sound is coming through the microphone and going into the computer.
Okay.
It's going through that box, and it finally ends up in your computer. Now, when you want to listen to it, you're going to listen to it from your computer speakers, or if you bought a headset, you could plug the headset into that box or your computer, either place, and listen that way.
Okay, so the reason I'm asking those is the beginning when we were talking, and I said no matter what I did, it sounded tinny.
Yeah.
So if I'm recording that, what I hear may be different from what other people are hearing. Is that what you're saying?
It could be a lower quality. I'm going to switch back to my other microphone just a second.
Right. So how do I know what other people are going to hear if the only speaker I have is what's coming out of my computer?
Great question. Now we got the B test, right? Here's back on the other microphone. Probably the best thing for you to do is to plug in headphones that you think where music sounds reasonably good through them, and hear what it sounds through there. That way you're not dealing with cheap computer speakers, which is where you usually get some cheapness. But listen to it however you listen to music, and the music sounds good, then listen to the recording and say, does it sound worse than the music or about the same? And then that's your easiest way of making a comparison.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions? Tim and then Valentina.
You're not a Mac man.
I'm not. I used to be, but I'm not anymore.
Oh, I've never heard
a story there. There's a story there.
Okay.
Yeah, the shortest, best story of that is my mother-in-law, who is now 89, decided she needed a new computer, and I'm the PC guy, and I have a brother-in-law who's a Mac genius. You know, he works in the Genius Bar for Mac, and so she was asking us which computer should we get. He told her she needed a PC, and I told her she needed a Mac. Because neither one of us wanted to support her. But no,
naughty.
I really don't know Macs. My experience with them ended about 15 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. So.
Okay.
But in terms of video editing, we can talk, we'll come to that in a minute, but any other microphone or audio questions at this point? Yeah, Valentina, yeah.
And very, very basic. 2 questions. I'm sort of in the middle of nowhere, and you can't order things. It's complicated.
Yeah.
Sort of a war. And people here. Okay, my first question is: when you were not using your microphone, your voice was very loud. Mm-hmm. Now that you prefer to use the microphone, your voice is like half the volume it used to have.
Well, so first let me ask you, is it okay? Does it need to be louder?
It's barely enough for me.
All right, how's this now?
Much better.
Okay, so I have an audio control here that... Too much, okay. There we go.
Okay, okay, so it was you controlling it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, but the quality of your voice is much warmer now with the microphone, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're after?
Yep.
Okay, and these people here are using literally the ones you use with your cell phones.
Yeah.
And is that you put the little microphone as close as you can.
Yep.
Is it worth a try, or that's just?
It's absolutely worth a try, and again, it depends on why you're doing it. And there's a whole range of those kinds of microphones have a whole range of quality as well. So I don't know, but if you spend $20 on the headphones and the microphone, it's probably not going to be very good. Okay, but in general, you can even use, the Macs. The Apple folks have their little buds that hang down from their ear. I have the Google kind that does a little differently. No, this is not wired. They're the wireless ones. And so again, you can get some good quality out of that. But in general, if you're recording yourself, you want to have a microphone that's wired into whatever you're recording. It's just one less set of noise to take place.
Thank you.
Yep. What else? Okay, so there was a question about videos, but there was also just a question about computers, right? And how to move forward. Do I remember right? Okay. So again, with a computer, you want to be thinking about why are you getting it? What are you using it for? Does it need to be a laptop? Can it be a desktop? In general, you're going to spend a lot less for a desktop than you will a laptop, and you'll get more power as a result. But it's not mobile. So, that has to be your first question. Do I intend to take this and use it somewhere else? And if you do, then you want to think about what, you want to spend, if you're going to be recording onto it, you're going to make sure that you've got enough disk space on it to get your recording, and a strong enough graphics processor to do that work for you. And that's one where honestly I'd be in touch with the manufacturer about what they would recommend. I've used a lot of different PC companies over the years, and I always come back to Dell, mainly because I've found their support to be so good. They're just very reliable and very helpful. and I do pay for the support, and I do, even me, because when something goes wrong, I want somebody there who's going to fix it for me. My best Dell support story was I got a message from my computer that said, it looks like your C drive is about to fail. We're shipping you a new one. And sure enough, it arrived and I was able to pop it into place. And the old one was about to die, and I had no knowledge of that. So they were proactively monitoring what goes on there. And I find, that probably saved me a good several days of panic had that drive crashed. So again, I have all the admiration for Macintosh. I think my main concern with them is they're much more expensive, but they certainly are higher end if you're doing graphics and audio work, no question.
That's interesting, because I've got my first Dell computer and I can't stand it. I absolutely hate it.
Oh, well,
I've been a Toshiba girl for years and years and years, and they just don't make computers anymore. So last year I bought a Hewlett Packard, and it lasted a year and then died.
Yeah.
And about 10 months ago I got a new Dell, and the thing I hate about it is it's so fragile. I just need to touch the mouse and the mouse goes everywhere. I think I'm typing here on this line, and then I look up and it's typing somewhere else. Oh, it just drives me crazy.
Now there's actually a setting, and I haven't had a Dell laptop in a while, but I know there's a setting that allows you to adjust the track. I'm sure you're talking about a laptop, right? With the track.
Yes. Yeah.
You can adjust that so that it does that much less often. It knows when you're typing, and it will shut off or really turn down the sensitivity on the touchpad while you're typing. I'd look into settings and see if you can find that. I have a desktop, so I can't model that for you.
All right. Well, I'll have a look at that later.
I had that problem when I was working for a company, and I had a laptop I had to take with me, and I was educated on how to make that setting. I set it once, and I never set it again because it worked. So I don't remember what it was. I know there's.
Right.
Yeah, I know it's been a while since I've had to do it for any of the laptops that I've used. But once you go into like utilities, there's something for like for your mouse, and then you get into everything from you can change what it looks like if it's the finger versus it's just the arrow. But there's also a thing for sensitivity there too. Yeah. You kind of play around with it till you get to what you want.
Yeah.
Great. Oh, great.
Valentina, you got your hand up.
Crazy. Oh.
Well, the one thing I'll say is I'm glad you bought the Dell before I said it was a good idea.
Yeah.
You can't blame me for it. Valentina, did you have a question? Your hand is raised? No? Okay. All right. So let's take a minute with video editing. Is that a good topic? Okay. And again, I can't speak specifically to the video editors on the Mac. I know it comes with one that I've heard very good things about. But there are, and there's one video editor that I would call kind of okay, called WeVideo, that works both on Macs and PCs, and I know how it works. And you can do a lot of good stuff with it. You can't do high end, but you can adequate stuff with it. But video editing comes down to a few very simple tasks that then the video editor can make more elaborate and fancy for you. And one is basically zooming in and out of whatever. So you're going to have an image that, a video image that you're working with, and you might want to zoom in or zoom out. You might want to pan from one side to the left or up or down. And you also might want to fade rather, from one image to the next. And basically, everything you do with video editing is some combination of those three things. Now you can get really fancy. You can cut out the middle, you know, and put things in the middle. You can lay one image over another and do all sorts of fancy things there. But basically, you're talking about how do I adjust the image on the screen. Fancier video editors let you do some color adjustments with what you're doing. That's kind of a version of fading. You fade one color out, or you know, you can amplify another. The whole thing with zoom and taking the background away is another kind of fancy fading out of one particular color and replacing it with something else. But if you just think of your video as being a layer of objects, one on top of the other, and the one that's at the top is what people see. If there's something underneath it, they don't see it. That's what video editing is. So you want to, and I haven't yet seen a video editor that doesn't let you do those basic things. So yeah, go ahead.
I brought up the question because what I'm looking for, and I know is not there in the iMovie that is built into the Mac because they took it away over 15 years ago, and I was furious at them and have never forgiven them, is the ability to have more than one audio track and blend the audios into different places. Yeah, chopping up the video, the picture part is there's lots of ways to do that, but blending the picture and the audio and being able to add background music that you can fade in and out, that's the
oh boy, I gotta tell you, yeah. And I don't.
It used to be easy, and now it is so complicated, and you have to go to these $500 and $600 programs to be capable of that, and it's frustrating.
Well, so give me a second. You're absolutely right. All those things I said about video, you also want to be able to do with audio. So you want to blend one with the other. You want one to be on top of the other sometimes. I mean, in a sense, it's a very similar kind of thing. And in every video editor I've worked with, that facility has been there. Let me give me 1 second here. So I will. Oh, that's not a good example. Yeah, here's a good one. So, let me share my screen. So this is a very, very simple video. It's a 10-second video, which is general. The attention span of most people is you show them a video. So you want to get their attention in 10 seconds. And what you see here, and this is Camtasia, which is my preferred. It's a middle of the road video editor. It costs $250 as a one-time fee. And then it's a $50 a year maintenance fee on top of that if you want to keep it current, which you do. So roughly the end you're talking about there, about a $300, you know, well, $250 to start and then $50 a year after that. This has tracks and they're layered one on top of the other. There is no audio on this at the moment. But if I were to add an audio track, so I would add a track and I'd go to my library and I'd pull in an audio, I've just added audio to this.
Right.
And I could add another track and blend one to the next, that sort of thing. This is the volume level. So if I want to fade out, I can either do that manually here, put a point there, and then, put a second point here, and drag it down. So I've
right. That's exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I can recommend this one. And so what this does now, I'm going to mute the audio. Is it just says transformational storytelling? It's what you call a bumper. I add it to videos that I produce from that work that I do. And there's lots of things going on in there. There's a shape, a circular shape over here. There's a rectangular shape over here. There's some text that's coming in. There's my logo, you know, all sorts of things going on. But this is a package that Camtasia gives me. So it says,
right,
tell me what text you want, and I'll make that happen. If I wanted something else, I could say I'd like to have something like that happen.
Right.
All those things are built in for me.
Yeah.
And you're honestly, I like the way Camtasia does it, but WeVideo does it. Adobe Premiere, if you're an educator, is a very inexpensive, and it's a very high-end one. The problem is it's extremely complicated. Okay, so I just see this. So the one I'm using is Camtasia. I'm putting it in the chat room. Another one that's not quite as good, cheaper to start, but more expensive in the long run is WeVideo. Adobe Premiere is the very high-end one, and I've got it, and I don't use it because I don't have the time to learn it to do it right. So I stick with Camtasia. But that's the metaphor. All of these use will be the same metaphor. Track layered upon track. If there's two, if I put another track up here, let's say I put a call out. You see how it appears over everything else. Right? It's whatever is up on top, because that's on top. If I were to move that to the bottom, or if I was to take this and move it to the top, the call out would go away. It's whatever's on top is what you see.
Great. Well, thank you, Jim. That's very helpful.
Yeah. And I'm sorry I didn't see the chat before now, or I would have said goodbye to Tim, who has wallpaper. Other questions? It doesn't have to be anything we've already talked about. How can I be helpful?
What you just said was very helpful. I was fighting with WeVideo for about 4 hours today to get, a 3-minute video done.
Oh dear.
I've had that.
But it's because I didn't understand anything I was doing. So even when you just said that layering, I didn't understand that. So when I'm looking at the screen and it's saying video 1, video 2, video 3, video 4, I have no idea where I'm putting things and why some.
And what WeVideo does, because I also use that a fair amount, I use it when I teach, is it requires you to say, is this a graphics track or an audio track? Camtasia doesn't require that. Anything is on the track, you can mix and match, you just can't overlap. But yeah. Let me just mention so let's see, how do I do this? I'm new to this storytelling community. And in my community, I'm known as a storyteller almost exclusively. I have a long background in technology, obviously. I enjoy technology, and I worked for many years in that field. As I came into this community, the glaring need, because it really just preceded COVID, was for technical help. So I've become very involved and I enjoy it. And one of the things I've been asked to do is do a video editing course, which I've done and I like to do. The problem that I'm facing, and now this is just personal sharing here, is I'm getting to be known as the tech guy and not the storyteller. And I, I'm much more excited about my storytelling than I am my technology. So I will wrestle with whether I offer that course. But I will say that Camtasia offers a lot of tutorial videos at a level that WeVideo doesn't. And so if you find yourself, when your contract comes up for renewal, you might think about moving over there if you're not getting the satisfaction you need. WeVideo has some strengths. You should know it was originally formed by real estate agents who were trying to make videos of the homes they were selling. That's the genesis of the thing. So a lot of the stuff that they have built in is really good for real estate agents. And then they found out it was good for schools. So they started to do a little bit more for schools, and that's nice too. The way I encountered it is through an organization called Story Center, and they use it because you can, their pricing model is such that if you buy a site license, you can basically give it away. And it's not terribly expensive if you're willing to take that first big step. So they use it for social justice projects, helping people who don't have a lot of technology to make their own stories and to get those stories into the public view, that was how I encountered it. I was doing work with them. So I'm attracted to it because it runs on everything, Macs, PCs, Chromebooks, tablets, you name it. So it has that flexibility, but that flexibility comes with the cost of power. There's always a trade-off. So I don't use it at all when I'm producing a video for myself, but I often use it when I'm teaching. So there's, Camtasia came out of a company that actually started as a screensaver, Snagit, and they realized people wanted to make presentations out of their screenshots, and they built Camtasia, and now Camtasia and Snagit are almost competing with each other because they do many of the same things. So again, I'm a technologist. I get it, but I'm a storyteller, so I like the stories of how these things come to be. What other questions?
I had a storytelling related sort of question for you, Jim, not really relevant to this discussion directly, but I wondered if you'd ever used Linux or any version of.
I used to, and the truly technical amongst us will say that since I do a lot of work on a Chromebook, I'm actually using Linux. But my master's in computer science, which I got decades ago, we were working on Unix, and we're working on installing a version of Unix called Xinu, Z-X-I-N-U, which stands for Xinu is not Unix. So a little recursive pun there. So yeah, I've been around Linux a lot. Yeah, but it's not interesting enough for me to kill myself reviving it. Valentina, you had your hand up.
Since you have time, it's a privilege. Very, very, very basic.
Sure.
Lighting.
Mm-hmm.
I've sort of, by trial and, trying many things, I've sort of come to something, but if you could just mention it for a basic video. Yep. And I know this is so simple, but since I have so much trouble with the power of the internet, I am in a very small town. There's only one antenna, and there's a lot of people because all the kids, the few that do have internet are doing school through internet. Could you explain how it works?
Sure. Where are you located? Just out of curiosity, where are you?
It's called La Huacana. I'll put it on the chat.
Okay.
It's a small town in the southern part of Michoacan in Mexico.
Okay.
But it's down in the middle of
the valley. So let's talk about lighting first, and then a little bit about the internet. So you've got some good lighting there, by the way. So it looks like you've got some light in front of it that's facing your face. And whether that's natural light or not, it looks good, and you're doing a good job. The main point with light, a couple of things to think about. One is if it's behind you, as it is for VIA, it makes a silhouette, right? So it's going to darken what's your face in VIA's condition. So the thing you want to do is you want to have light in front of you. As soon as you put light in front of you, you have to ask what's behind you, because you're going to light up. If you light your face and you just put one light here, right, it's going to make a shadow over there. So you have to say, well, how do I get enough light in front of me that I can be seen, but I don't have it narrowed to a couple of lamps that make shadows everywhere. My solution is an inexpensive solution. I get strings of LED lights that and I can't really show you, but directly in front of me are my bookshelves, and I have 2 strings of LED lights across them that are white and just facing me. And so there's no single point of light coming to my face. It's distributed. What is it, about 40 lights on each row, and costs $20 for each string. And so I get a very nice lighting here. And if I have my green screen up, there's no shadows. Everything is lit. And the way they're made now, they come with a cute little dial that lets you dial the color. So if by some chance you need something a little off-white to make you look even better, you can manage that as well. So anyway, so lighting is basically as sources in front of you, not behind you, and not many shadows. And the closer to a white light as you can. If you buy bulbs, you can get warm light, you can get cool light, you can get all these things. You want to get something, sometimes they call it daylight, something that's as uncolored as possible. VIA, yeah.
So you gave us the actual names of the microphones. Can you give us the actual name of these lights that you're talking about?
I will. What I'll do is I'll get them off of Amazon, and I'll put them in the email that I send out.
Okay, great.
I send this out, yeah.
Because I'm picturing Christmas lights, but I know that's not what you mean.
Well, let me see. I'll risk it here. Ugh.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Just strips, 2 strips.
Okay.
They're really bright in this, oh, there we go. But that's all they are.
Okay.
Here, let me do this. Hey, Google, turn off the bottom strip.
Okay, turning off.
Oh!
That's what it looks like.
That was sexy.
Okay, Google, turn on the bottom strip.
Sure, turning on the bottom strip. Do that with my Alexa, I hope.
No, that's Google, not Alexa.
Well, I'm saying maybe if I got them, I could do that with Alexa.
Good, absolutely. Yep. So,
don't use her for much else.
Okay, the internet. So again, plumbing is the best metaphor we've got for this. Think of it this way. You've got data. The data is your picture, your sound, the document you want to send, whatever it is, right? You've got data, and you want to get it to somebody else. And in order to do that, it has to get from your computer to their computer. So let's start at the middle and work outwards. In the middle, there are these huge fat cables that run across continents and that run across the ocean and that have a pipe coming out of various places along the way, and they can carry massive amounts of data. But just like a power transformer, when you don't want all that power coming into your house, you don't want all that water coming into your house, so you need to make the pipes smaller and smaller. So there's basically some shrinking of the capacity. And if you were wired to the internet, you would have a narrow cable that's coming through your neighborhood, and an even narrower cable that comes to your house, and there would be a very narrow cable from this perspective that goes from where it comes into your house to your computer. And it would probably go through a thing called a router or a cable modem, and you might even have both, where the cable that's coming into your house then gets split up into lots of other places to go. And at the other end, the same thing applies. Okay, so you got this big cable in the middle, big pipe in the middle, smaller and smaller until it finally makes its way into your house. Now that's if you're wired. Now the question is, if you're not wired, how does the data get there? Well, it gets there by way of a wireless signal. So it's not wired, it's wireless. And by comparison, in usual cases, the conceptual width of that cable that goes through wireless is even smaller. So less data can go through that. And because it's wireless, it can be disturbed. It could be a strong wind, it could be a car, any number of things that can get in the way of that signal that disturb it, so that it loses for a while. Now, if the wireless is between you and your house, and sitting in your desk and the wireless modem in front of you, right? That is fairly reliable, but a little power fluctuation to your house can make that signal unreliable. So that's why they always say if you can all wire yourself in instead of wireless, even in your own home, that's preferable. Now, but eventually, with wireless, let's say one way is be wireless to your wireless router in your house, but let's say you're on your cell phone, right? Your cell phone is now connected to the cellular network, all right? And that's another wireless network that's going, and it has even lower capacity than a wireless network. And it's also apt to be disrupted. And as with any of these pipes, if they get full, they get full. There's only so much capacity they have. So if lots of people start to make demands on it, it gets flaky. What ends up happening is that some computer program says, well, I've got 20 people's worth of data and only room for 10. I'm going to alternate who gets a turn in these little tiny bits of time and switch real fast. So hopefully nobody notices that every other packet you're not getting, somebody else is getting. All right. Well, the more people try and get in, the bigger those gaps are between your first packet and your next packet, or somebody's is problematic, and it shuts down the wireless connection for a moment or two while the computer tries to figure out what's going on. So there's lots of opportunities for that to go wrong. And the last version of that, and I'll use Hope as a good example of this, Hope in Maine, she's connected to the internet by a satellite. And a satellite has even less capacity than any of the things we've mentioned. And it's disturbed by wind, it's disturbed by clouds. I mean, it's a tremendously unreliable attachment. And to give you a sense of the size of the pipes, my pipe that I have in my house is somewhere between 500 and 700 times bigger than hers. Now that's probably the two extremes that you could find. She's at the lowest, I'm at the highest. But so it all depends upon how reliable the connection is, how fat the pipe is, and that's actually the word they use. How fat is your pipe? And how much contention there is for that bandwidth, whatever the volume of data that can flow through that particular segment of pipe is. Does that help?
Yes, a lot. I have my own like antenna thing. I hired, I paid for it, so I have like a small round antenna on top of the house. And I was told I have to aim it to the big antenna that's on top of the house. So
you have a satellite connection to the internet, just like Hope.
Okay.
All right. But you have a better one than she does, I'll tell you.
But so I do, let's say for me to make the best of the situation, I do have to try to avoid the rush hours then?
That's right, absolutely. And in fact, let me give you this link. I'll put it in the chat window here. 1 second. There's a lot of these. This is a pretty reliable one. Where's chat? Come back, chat. There we are. Speedtest.net. And you can get a sense of, you can run this anytime you want. It doesn't cost anything. It's, you know, you're not giving away any private data. When you run it, if you're curious, I get 500 megabits. So you can compare yourself to that as you go through. And that's the high end. I happen to be very fortunate. We live in a neighborhood that FiOS wanted to make one of its test sites. So they gave us very fast internet. And I'm happy for it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Vaya.
Quick question. Okay, so if the cable that is coming into my house and I have it now, I'm guessing it's a coaxial cable that is now wired to my modem, then my modem has an Ethernet cable to the wireless router. And then would I take another Ethernet cable and go from the wireless router to my laptop?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Because that otherwise there only seems to be one place to plug in an Ethernet to the modem.
Yeah, the modem.
If I take the wireless router off of that, then nothing else in the house is going to work.
That's right.
Okay.
So the modem is it's almost wrong to call it a modem anymore, but it used to be just for phone lines.
Right.
And it's what lets you take the data that's on a phone line and turn it into data that a computer could understand.
Okay.
And it's serving the same function with the cable network now.
Okay.
Not quite the same technology, same idea. So yes, you've got information coming in that isn't intelligible to a computer, and the modem changes that into a form that the computer can understand. The router is what lets you then spread it out in you route it, right? You route it in different directions and multiple directions. But just think of this. So you've got one cable coming into your router, right? From the cable modem. That's your bandwidth. That's however much passes through that. So if you've got 10 people on your wireless network, they're all fighting for that same amount of data that can go through that cable modem part of it. So when you're doing a performance or something like that, you want to tell everybody, hey, shut off your computers or don't use anything big while I'm doing this.
Okay.
Yep.
And then follow-up question
Sure.
to the testing of the speed.
Yep.
I know I'm asking you to problem solve when you haven't actually seen the problem. Up until 2 weeks ago, when I tested my upload speed, if I was going to be doing a live stream, I tested my upload speed. I'm supposedly paying for a minimum of 2.5 to 3. And I was getting that. And then all of a sudden 2 weeks ago, it's dropped down to 1.2 or 1.3.
And you didn't change anything at your end, right?
I've not changed anything at my end. The only thing that I know for a fact has changed is my next door neighbors now have the same provider. So is that what you were talking about, that they're now crowding that big fat?
They're crowding that, but yes, you're right, but you're paying for that. So you have every reason to call your provider and say, I'm paying for 2.5 and I'm getting 1. Here's some speed tests that I've run, and you need to do whatever it takes to get me up there because that's what I'm paying for. So they have the ability to make that happen, and they're not going to do it until people start to complain.
Well, when I called yesterday and said that, they tried to tell me I had too many devices, and nothing in my house has changed.
So what you do?
I have.
So unplug your devices and run your speed test. Just leave one computer connected, right? And then run your speed test and call them back and say, no, this is with one device on my network.
Okay.
And you take that argument.
That is what I did yesterday. Okay. Yep. And that's what I thought. Logically, that made sense to me. But when I called them yesterday and they were arguing with me, I was like, fine, I'll call back and talk to somebody else.
That's right. And they will. You know, they're in the business of making money.
Right.
Which means not paying for anything more than they have to.
And trying to talk me into upgrading.
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
Okay.
And if that sounds like healthcare, no, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Jim, I'm sorry, I've got to go now.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Learned lots already. And I want to come on the next one when you do that. If
Okay.
You do the next one.
So let me do this. I'm going to just, because I don't think in these terms, but I know I should. So here's my tip jar, paypalme.jimbrule/Jim Brule, put it in the chat. I'm looking at cutting back a little bit on this. So I'm thinking the next one will be in 2 weeks. We'll go to an every other week thing. So I'll post it on Artists Standing Strong Together as I usually do. But let me just double check my calendar. Yeah, that should be no problem. So 2 weeks from today.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Good night, Maya.
Bye, Rona.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you again.
Okay. Anything else?
This has been very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good.
This has nothing to do with the office tech hours, but
okay.
The collaborative
Oh,
thing,
yes.
Laura, what is that?
So collaborative storytelling is where we as storytellers get together and just say, what are the issues that we face as storytellers doing storytelling? So it's not working on stories, but it's working on everything. Sometimes it's tech. Sometimes it's been, where do we find new stories? How do we research? What do we do to be due diligence on a story? All those, any kind of issue related to the profession of storytelling.
Okay.
Not the art.
Okay.
Well, it could be the art, but we're not doing stories.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Okay then. Well, have a great couple of weeks, and we'll see you. If I don't see you before then, maybe I'll see you then.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds great.
Thanks, Jim. Always appreciate it.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a nice evening.